food organization and labeling for learners who are blind or low vision. So some very basic, simple techniques that will really come in handy and help you or your learner stay organized in the kitchen. First of all, we're working today mostly with index cards, Sharpies, and rubber bands, one of my favorite tools. If you have items that go in the refrigerator, such as this sauce, this marinade, or the freezer, you may want to put your index card into a Ziploc baggie. This is a snack size Ziploc baggie, and it says Island Soyaki, and it's got a rubber band around it. So very clearly labeled, very easy to see. Index cards inside the baggie. Here is a frozen peas, and I've got an index card, and I put a little tape on it just so that it would last a little bit longer. Certainly if you can get your cards laminated, it'll be great, because I'll show you a trick at the end of what you can do with your cards after you finish using your product. So this card is attached to a chip clip. You can also use clothespins or hair ties, or even a bread ties. And that way you have a very clearly marked refrigeratable and freezer items. So that's a great idea. Now, with cans, you've got many different options. Again, we're coming back to the rubber band around the can with an index card, but let's talk a little bit about the different types of information and how you would put that onto your card. Perhaps you have someone who just needs large print, and you can use nice, big, bold letters. If your learner has diabetes, it may be really important to know how many carbs. This says corn, and then it says carbs, 14 grams per half cup serving. This is a can of red kidney beans. I used a red marker and a red rubber band. There's also information that you can put on the back of it, maybe some recipe ideas or protein information. Here's a can that doesn't have a label of what it is, because maybe you can see that it says chunky split pea soup, but the card has directions on how to prepare it in the microwave. It says microwave 2.5 to 3 minutes, and it also has sodium information. 410 milligrams of sodium in this split pea soup. So information on these cans can be very helpful, and it doesn't need to just be the title, all on index cards. Same thing for your boxes. Here's 2 boxes. One is vegetable broth, the other is chicken broth. They are exactly the same shape, they feel the same, the lids are in the same spot. So it would be pretty difficult if you had low or no vision to know what was what. This card I did vertically, and I was using this one as a teaching tool for someone who was learning beginning Braille. So even though we have a large print V for vegetable, C for chicken, I also have the printed dots of the Braille letters for VEG, or just V, and then on chicken, CHI. Below on the vegetable, I actually have a Braille label as well. On the chicken, I have used bump dots for somebody who may have a little bit of a tactual issue, but this way at least they're getting to feel, it's almost like jumbo Braille. So CHI. Held on with a rubber band, no problem. This can also be used for your cereals. Here we have a Special K, and I'm just using actually a jumbo paper clip for this one, and there's no writing at all. There's just a Braille label. So this is a great teaching tool if you're working with somebody who's learning Braille and learning to label. This says Special K in Braille, and on the other side, it says Special K in large print. And I'll tell you why you should have both, even if your learner is purely a Braille user. Finally, spices. Spices can also be labeled so that it's easier for you to see them in large print. This is a piece of an index card cut in half with a rubber band, And then on the cap, I have added a Braille label. Why the cap, you ask? Well then, when basil is all done and I replace it, all I have to do is unscrew the cap, switch the caps out to the new basil, and switch the label. And boom, you are ready to cook. Same thing with this onion powder. I have a Braille label on the side of the lid here. Sometimes you do need to reinforce that with a piece of tape because they will come off. And the large print onion, again, another great place for some Braille or other tactual markings. And in case you're having a hard time organizing or finding some of your spices, this is a really easy, cheap way to make a lazy Susan. I bought these cake pans, the little round ones, at the dollar store. There's 2 of them, the round tins, and you just throw in a couple of marbles, 4 or 5, just to kind of give it a little height. And then when you put this in, it spins pretty nicely. This can go inside of a cabinet or out on your counter, and just a neat way to be able to not have to reach or take everything out. You can have your spices or your cans facing out, and it spins around pretty easily. So this little project with the rubber bands, the cake tins, the index cards, the whole thing, under $5 easily. Now, the cool thing about using index cards as your labeling of choice is that when you finish using the product, so let's say you've made your beans or your corn, and now you've got your card. Well, you can start taking your card, and over here you see I have an envelope held in an organized manner, groceries. And I'm just putting the card into the envelope. And then the next day I use my kidney beans, so I'll put them into the envelope too. And then I use my low sodium or high sodium split peas. And at the end of the week, I now have my shopping list. And I can take this envelope with me to the supermarket and do my shopping. Even put some of these labels right there on the cans or the items, as long as I don't cover the scan code for the person who's checking them out at the grocery store. And then they're ready to get organized. So a really good way. One of the reasons why I said to always include Braille and large print is just in case you're shopping with a helper and you decide to divide and conquer. So you take half the cards and somebody else takes half the cards. Somebody who is not Braille savvy can still help you with the shopping. So very efficient way. This is labeling and organizing food.